Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Kerri Lake, and this is our next wonderful conversation for Animals of a New Earth. And I'm here today with my friend Sabeh-Azar, who is, she's kind of a dynamo. She's created a company called Neo-Paws, which are well, she's going to describe it for you, but it's boots for dogs. And that has kind of gone gangbusters for her. And the next project that I'm aware of she's doing is a cooking show for pets. So, and I also know you're in Toronto, but also have a home here in California, like next town over from where I live. So I know that's going to be fun to play together. So Ro, hello, thank you for playing with me. And please introduce yourself and tell us the name of your cooking show and however you'd like people to know you.
My name is Roanna Sabeh-Azar, and I am the founder and operator of Neo-Paws International, neopaws.com. And the Neo is neoprene. So it started with orthopedic shoes made of neoprene, which were actually, I made them as running shoes to begin with. For dogs, yeah. And actually we sell a lot to horses and ponies and donkeys and llamas and pigs, and oh yeah. So it's not only, it's anything that needs to be protected from any of the elements, whether they're abrasive. Some are mold forming if the pigs or the animals are standing in a lot of mud all the time, so it makes a big difference to their hooves. And as you know, when I started, I didn't know any of this really. It was God had sent me a message and said, "You're going to make shoes for dogs." I went rollerblading with my dog at the time, who was an Old English sheepdog I adopted from Mexico, and I thought he was a husky when I first got him. He was like, really weird coloring, but he was the smartest dog. Just unbelievable. Anyway, we would go rollerblading. He'd come back with bloody paws, and I said, "Geez," and I was quite the athlete at the time, and I thought, okay, well, dogs need running shoes. So that's how it started. And it was funny because I was importing and exporting from Mexico, dishware and ceramics and glassware and home goods. And I had a restaurant too. And, I was in the hotel and food and beverage business, but I had always wanted to be a veterinarian. So that was one of my first choices as a profession. So it made sense to, all of a sudden, the real, animal loving part of me said, okay, it's time to work with animals. And that's what happened. So Neo-Paws was born, and I was rocking it. People were just, taking pictures of my dogs in their shoes going, "What's wrong with your," they thought it was for medical reasons, or there was something wrong with the dog's paws. And I would have to explain that it was to protect their paws against the heat and abrasive surfaces. And then it became a salt in the winter situation, right? So then, right, of course. So everyone who experiences harsh winters, they throw salt on the roads, and it's absolutely detrimental to the health of the dogs, especially when they're licking all the chemicals off their paws when they come home. And so that became a thing. So the neoprene I found was good for winter. And then I created the summer shoe, which was breathable and made of mesh. And I always called myself Nike of the dog world. I mean, that was kind of, that's who I was. And there were other dog shoe companies that came up after me, and they had their own styles, and they typically would copy it. So I was always 10 steps ahead. Gel insoles, rubber soles, toe caps. I just kept, it was amazing.
What was the year? When did you start? Because I know, I had little part-time jobs at, pet supply places, because that's fun for me. It's a great way to actually give people guidance, when they come into the stores. Right. But what year did you get started making?
1992. So it was around those, and it was interesting because at the time, we didn't have internet, right? There was no such thing as, there was no Instagram or anything. And we were, and I was, I knew the product and the material from my exercise gloves. That's what gave me the first idea, because I was using them to lift weights. And at that point, there was no way of communicating with China, because that's where the neoprene was made, other than fax and telephone. So, here we are faxing, and it was just amazing. A whole other time, not that I'm aging myself or anything, but it's
True.
great. But, I'll tell you though, what that difference is, just quickly, is that when you have such a harder way of getting in touch with people than today, you have less competition as well, right? So so now it's so easy to be global. Now the Chinese reach out to us, or manufacturers around the world can send us messages soliciting business. So that's why everyone and their brother now has a dog shoe or dog clothing or dog something company. So it's much harder these days to really I guess come forefront. So I'm very blessed that I'm long standing within the industry, right? So that's really been awesome.
So then tell me the inspiration for the cooking show, because that's like a different tangent, tell me where did that love come from, that you just said, okay, guess what, now we're doing this.
Well, the funny thing is, and it's like in each person, I think once you're able to identify what your strengths are, and what your likes are, and what you're really good at, they just tend to keep coming back, right? You never lose parts of yourself. So how do you implement those parts of yourself within what you're doing and expressing and introducing to the communities? And because I was in the hotel and food and beverage business, I had, I have a degree in cooking and everything else. So I've been cooking for my dogs for ever since 30 years, right? So that became just part of it. There's no point trying to protect animals with the paws and the safety clothing that I make and not want to start from inside, right? So this is a big factor. And it's just another expression of love and kindness and giving back. So when people always thought it was crazy, I always had like 5 to 10 dogs, whatever animals, in the house, whether they were friends or my own. And I'd always walk around with my pack of dogs, and people would only know me because of my hair and my dogs, right from behind. Oh, it's Ronnie. So yeah, so that was fun. Now I'm down to 1 dog and 2 cats, and
that's a change. That's a big change.
It is a big change. It is, but it's funny because the cats are like 20 now, right? My oldest dogs, my last dogs passed when they were 19 and 20 years old. And that I think was a landmark, and such a, I think just showing how much love and good food and working their minds, very important to work a dog's mind as well. So and
Tell
what
me what you mean by work a dog's mind, because that can go in different places. So I want to know what you're saying.
I've always been a firm believer that in the motto of my life and my world with animals, all animals, is to elevate them and educate them. Okay, so just like children, right? We're going to, because it's a deep kind of subject, because I don't know if I was born being Tarzana, okay, and that's kind of what was in me. I've always felt like it was imperative and non-negotiable to trust the animals, the trust that they're going to make the right decisions for themselves. Hence why I walk my dogs off leash, right? Which in our communities and societies, it's illegal. But to me, it's the most humane thing I can do for my animals, because I'm allowing them the freedom that they also deserve. I can't keep a dog on the end of a leash because of my fears. So for me to be able to let go of my fear, to love the animal, to support and teach the animal what they need to know, that gives them the option to choose. And I'm okay with that. It's like if I have a cat, one of my cats is an indoor cat because I adopted her and she's declawed, so she doesn't go out. And then my other cat, who I rescued and adopted, is an outdoor cat. And you know what? Every day I take the chance when I open that door that he may or may not come back. But I know that in the time that he is alive, he's the happiest cat possible. He's not a captive to my needs or my fears or, my intentions or thoughts of what an animal should be. Right?
Yeah, I love that. So another word that I have for what you're talking about with working their minds, to me, it's engaging. right? And in order to stimulate the animals, to let them know, hey, you're a part of this, what you think matters to me, it requires a sense of yourself that is also willing to engage. I mean, what you're talking about would induce so much fear for so many people,
So
just
much.
because I think there's so many people who are still distracted from who they are. Like, in order to engage the animals this way, I've got to know myself to some degree. I have to have a trust in my own ability and my own willingness to show up and communicate. You know, to be able to say to the animals, there you are, I see you, here's what's going to work, I need you to participate. That requires me to know myself enough, you know. And so many people rely on the leash, rely on the dominance approach, simply because that's what they know of themselves. They need the tool, right?
That's right.
And I think that's
That's
part
what
of
they're
it.
comfortable with.
Exact, it's what
It's a
works for
comfort
them
zone, right?
at
Yeah.
at this time, right?
Yeah.
But this is why I love the conversation, because it's not to make anybody right or better or wrong. It's to just draw out, if you'd like to make this evolution, it's an
Hmm.
evolution of knowing yourself so you can communicate with the animals at that level of intelligence, connection, honor, equanimity.
Very much so. Sometimes I'm not to focus on any negativity whatsoever, but it upsets me sometimes that people are making decisions to get animals when they're not ready for it. You know, they always say you should have an animal before you have a child,
Mm.
you know, because there's a lot of, I see a lot of people who have control issues with animals and what that results in. That's very, you know, it's not a, it's just not, it's not good. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just bad. It's just, you know, I'm trying to stay positive here, right? It's not the healthy choice. So, you know, people have to, I think, you know, they have to psychologically be aware of their actions before they can have a healthy child or animal. And this is what's super important. And I mean, it's like I always say, and you know, at one point I'm going to be launching the book called Healthy You, Healthy Pet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Healthy you, healthy child, healthy you, healthy relationship. So
Right.
it, like you said, it all starts with themselves.
Mm.
So I'm saying, let's wake up and let's get responsible and respectful to the creatures that you're, you know, dealing with.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the core of everything that I share as well, is it really is about self-awareness, no matter what system you might follow. And like,
Hmm.
thank God for the systems, because they really do help when people are at a certain level of awareness or learning. But the purpose of all the different training systems and psychology systems and everything that humans learn, it it always takes you to greater self-awareness. Like, if I want a better relationship, then I need to be aware of myself and what I'm bringing to the relationship,
Of course.
whether it's with a dog or a cat or a child or a partner or whatever. Like, the evolution of humanity is in our own self-awareness. And I mean, how blessed are we to get to live with animals, because they do show up saying, well, here's me, show me who you are, right?
No kidding.
And
Yeah.
then we get to receive that, or do something else like dominate it and say, well, I think you're a dog, every dog behaves like this, and I'm going to say no, and you get to figure that out. And it's common, you know. But a greater self-awareness is what you're talking about, that says, you know what, I want to honor who you are, I want to learn about who you are. And then it's, to me, the next question is, how do we live together so that it works for both of us? And that's
Yeah.
a great vulnerability, whether it's with animals or children or partners, you know. It's like, how, so so tell me, just talk a little bit more what that's like for you. You know, you walk your dogs off leash, you talked about your own fears, you know, of having the leash. Having the leash in your hand maintains a fear for you, is that what you're saying? And so removing the leash, does it have you address your fear, or
No,
talk about it?
no, you're putting words in my mind. That's a, no,
That's why I
my
want you
thing
to
is
talk
that,
about it. Yeah.
yeah. No, the thing is, and I definitely want to stipulate this. They're actually even though I choose to allow them to walk without leashes, it doesn't mean that I'm still very safe and very aware of our environment and would never allow them to go into a dangerous environment. And it's a process where it just takes a few times and a couple of weeks of repeat and rewind, repeat, rewind, letting them know off road. And so my I choose to be that way because a my fear is entrapment. And I've come to realize that at a younger age, that why is it that I do not allow them to be pent up for too long without me? Why is it that I don't have cages for any animal that I've ever trained? Why do I give them that freedom? Because somewhere in my past lives, somewhere in my psyche, there is a fear of being trapped. And maybe, I know the Buddhists say that we don't transform from animals to humans and back unless you're very enlightened. But I don't know, maybe I was imprisoned as a person in my last life, maybe something, but there's definitely something there, so that it upsets me that I'm actually, controlling something like that. So I try to live all aspects of my life where there is as little control as possible and just letting it flow. But of always having a very solid and secure foundation, right? The foundation is key to everything. Don't say, oh, look at me, I can do a dog off leash and no training. No, that's not how it is, right? So I think, like you said, it's a comfort zone for most people to just, it's like a relationship too. How many times, you say, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. Okay, well, in that idea, but you allow a person to breathe, and that gives more room for beautiful things to happen. And so what does that mean for me having these dogs off leash? It means that I'm one person running a household of 5 dogs, myself, whatever, my business. I only have 2 hands. So when I go shopping, I bring them with me. Like, it's like that. Everyone's like, okay, we're going on a road trip, or we're going for a drive. And, so it's, yeah, like, and so I do a little out of the ordinary things with them, but they're always with me. I just don't believe in leaving them. They're like my buddies, right? They're like, okay, let's go. And why? Because I'm making them think. You have to let your animals think. They have their minds of their own. They can decide when they want to eat, when they don't, if they want to go left, if they want to go right, if they want to stop there and sniff that pole, or if they want to pee over here, if they want to pee there. They're making their own decisions on a, second to second basis. Do I want to sleep now? Do I want to get up? Whatever. So there's so much intricacy within their own happiness. And so it upsets me when people lock their dogs up, making them wait for them for 10 to 12 hours a day, in their apartments. And it's like they're staring at 4 walls going, okay, how do I get out of this prison, right? Like and they're extensions of us, right? They're little beings who are extensions of us. And so if they're not with us, they're not happy emotionally, right? I mean, and it's funny because, people say, oh, get another dog and it'll forget. You don't have to do so much work. Oh, no. 5 dogs, same amount of work for all of them, because you know what? I'm who they look at. Yes, they have fun with their partners and they're all happy amongst their friends because dogs are pack animals, right? But they always look to you. So you are always their support system. You're always their feeder. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You're the alpha.
And it just, what I hear in everything that you're sharing is just, for one thing, how much love and honor it's in your heart to bestow upon them, and to live in the way that best honors everybody, in the way that makes sense to you, the way your heart wants to express itself. And it just keeps, what I'm playing with over here as I'm listening to you is really sort of enjoying the truth that there are so many different ways to engage with animals, and it is so dependent on knowing yourself, on not only how much love I have for them, but how available I am to receive the love that they are. People tend to get into this mindset of, what do you need from me? And I've heard from people recently that their experience with dogs was, oh, the dog needed so much from me, and they would just come and bounce and bark, and they needed so much from me, and I don't think I did a good job. But there's a whole other side of it it, that is really saying to the dog out loud, or just with your heart and your energy, just thank you for loving me. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for doing this with me. And when people can start to shift from what do I need to do for you into thanking the animals in their world, and say, wow, thank you for loving me. Thank you for being here with me. And it is a game changer that can open the way to the kind of relationship that you're talking about, right? That says, we're here together. Yeah, I feed you. Yeah, this is our house. Yeah, I do it this way because that's how humans have organized things. But we can, welcome the dogs for who they are into human world, and still
That's
have
right.
it be, full of honor and equanimity, just acknowledging the truth that, hey, guess what, you got to sit in the car while I'm in the store because that's how it works. Or you got to, this is how it works, so thank you for being here, I'll be right back. That's to me what equanimity is like acknowledging what's required and then doing it together side by side.
Yeah, 100%. And it's amazing the capacity that the animals can, can withstand in the sense of every way, just by training. Yeah, for sure. I put them in the car, I leave the air conditioning on, and they're perfect. And you know what? It's funny, but they would rather be in the car than in my house.
Mhm,
It's crazy. Why? Because they know I'm coming back to the car. And
mhm.
they know I'm coming back home, but they feel so excited because they're with me. They're on an adventure. So it's about, and that's the way I look at my pack and my animal life. We're always on an adventure. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of person I realized this week too. I wrote it down that the word and adventure is the heartbeat of my soul,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so that's how animals want to feel too. They want to feel like they're on an adventure and they're on it with you, right? And
Uh,
that is a beautiful thing. And that they're actually participating by making their own choices and decisions.
yes. Well,
So,
and very much like us, like how different does it feel if you share your excitement and somebody just goes, mm-hmm, that sounds great, Gary. It's very
yeah,
different than if you share your excitement and they go, wow, yes, thank you for sharing that. Bring that into my world,
yeah,
being heard, being received
yeah,
it's everything. It's vital. It's the reason why there's more than one of us on the planet, right? So we can
yeah,
hear each other and receive each other. And don't I mean, I'm sure you see it that when the animals are also received for who they are, it lets them express more of themselves.
well, that's it. And not only that, but it also allows them to conform. When people see me out with my dogs, and it's been like this for 30 years, they're flabbergasted and they're in awe of these animals who stand by me leashless
Right.
and don't move, who do not cross roads without me, no matter what dog or what distracts them, no matter what squirrel they chase after, they know that there's a border because I have taught them those borders.
Yeah.
And yes, people say, "Oh, my dog will run away." I'm like, "No, if you're not a bad owner, your dog will not run away."
Well, it's
So,
the communication. It is about the relationship,
yeah, yeah,
and knowing yourself, knowing how to have clarity. So Bernie was with me for 14 years, through my 20s, through the 90s. And um, we would walk around leashless because I felt the same. I'm like, why does my friend have to wear a collar and I don't? That is messed
right,
up. That's where I was. That's where I was. And so he and I would walk around, and just like you're describing, we were just side by side, could have been two people holding hands walking down the road, and people would walk by and just go, wow, that's a dog. Like that's what dogs are meant to be with people.
yeah,
And it really was very much because
symbiotic,
we
symbiotic, right?
we were side by side. It wasn't I'm the human, you're the dog. It was, well, I'm a human, sorry, you're a dog. How do we do this?
Yeah,
And me listening to him for what
Yeah,
works for him, because all the animals want is to complement us as well.
that's it. That's
That's
it.
why, like, knowing who I am and what works for me is what opens the door for the animals to go, oh, this is you, this is what works for you, okay, here's me trying to give it to you. and
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, it's the willingness to communicate without dominating, which is, that's ultimately what I hear you talking about in your relationships, and that you guys are communicating without
Very much
saying,
so.
I
Very much
decide
so.
who you are, therefore you perform. That's not
It's
what I
like a master servant, right? It's like the master, and then yeah, very much so. And that's actually what it is. It is a master servant relationship with most animals, because the master says we go here, we go there, fine. But then the servant is always, and the dog is so selfless
Yeah.
and always waiting to please the human, right?
What are we doing? What are we doing now? What are
Yeah,
we doing
right.
now?
Or how can I love you? Or and how much can I emotionally take your burdens off for you?
Whew, that's a big one.
That's another whole aspect of
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
How many hours do we have?
I
Yeah.
know, right. And that's the thing too. Like, I talk to a lot of people who ask me, please tell my dog she doesn't have to do that. She doesn't have to take my burdens. She doesn't have to soak up my emotions. And the response is, you kind of can't tell them not to. It's
Yeah,
part of
they're empaths most of the time.
it's part of their presence. And in a big picture, it's part of their service side by
Hmm.
side with humanity, is to ease the journey for humanity to reach our hearts, so that humans can remember what our own hearts feel like.
Hmm.
And that has nothing to do with servitude, me serving my animals or my animals serving me. It really asks us to be loved and to explore what it is that this is, how much I am loved, is that this
Exactly.
creature shows up selfless in my life
Hmm.
and says, I'm here with you. How are we going to do this? And I think it's a brand new perspective, at least consciously,
Yeah.
for a majority of people. I think natively, people, when a human is centered and operating from their heart, the the sense that we're talking about becomes obvious. Like, we got to do this together. How do we do this together? And it's cultural conditioning that says, I'm going to dominate you, you need to make me look good. That's cultural conditioning. But the more we have this conversation and plant the seeds and share the language, that there is a side by side, even in and among humanville, we can
Yeah,
be
for
side by
sure.
side with animals and still honor human land. But it is the heart, it is being focused on sharing our hearts, that actually generates evolution.
Yes, very much so. And I think one thing that pops in my mind, yeah, listening to you speak as well, I think animals are like our mirror,
Mm,
right?
mm.
So very much so. I mean, you can see. So it's almost like you have this thing in front of you, and depending on how well it's, doing, is basically how well you're doing as an owner,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because
a
so many people say to me, "Oh my God, my dog would be all over the store if I took him, brought him with me." I'm like, "Well," and so my first question is, "How much time do you spend with your dog?"
yeah,
And they go, they look aside and they're all a little
of
nervous at
course,
that question. It's
right.
like, well, you can train your dog to do what my dog does. How much time are you spending with your dog to do this?
And
When does
what's
your
your
dog?
conversation like, when you're
Yeah,
talking to them, what's your
that's it.
conversation?
Yeah,
Absolutely. What I
yeah,
do like to offer to people is, the animals will absolutely help you see your state of being, but I also love to remind people that they are a uniqueness at the same time. They don't exist simply for human. That, I mean, it's another form of egocentrism to say that horse is a mirror of me. To an extent, absolutely, they will say, here's how it feels, here's how you feel right now. And they're not judging, they're just simply saying, here's how you feel. And that part is the mirror. But at the same time, they have their own uniqueness, and they have their own unique contribution, their own unique presence. there's a way to honor both, you know, and again, full circle, self-awareness, when I'm willing to be vulnerable enough to myself to see my own state of being, then if an animal's behavior goes sideways, I can, rather than try to make it about me and say, what's wrong with me? I can say, let's bring myself back to my heart and invite that animal to come with me. And it's not fixing problems at that point. It's just becoming the solution. It's becoming the way forward by recognizing something just went wonky. I'm going to come back to my heart, and I'd love you to come with me. It's a much, much gentler conversation that I think for a lot of empathic people, it's innate, but we're just now getting to have vocabulary for it, have ways to talk about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to self-awareness. And so I want to ask you about the cooking show. I want you to talk about your cooking show and how this fits into preparing foodies with and for our animals. And so my introduction to your cooking show was the big fat peanut butter cookie, which was awesome. I'm like, oh yes, peanut butter cookies. So
oh my God, I'm addicted to them, by the way.
Yeah.
I seriously.
So
every chance I get, I bake. I'm like, you're baking them.
Oh my God. So tell me what it feels like. Tell me how much fun it is to bake cookies with your animals. Talk to me about that.
You know, it's funny because I think, okay, so part of the whole cooking thing is yes, you've got your buddies around you, so which is great. So whether you have family members and children or husbands or wives who want to participate in your cooking adventures together, I mean, that's right, part of sharing that love, right? So the whole family's doing it together. And so if you have even if you don't have a big family around you and your dog is sitting, you know, somewhere beside you in the kitchen, but you love to cook, then it's like, oh, there's a purpose. So right, the dogs give you purpose. It's almost like, okay, I love to go running, or I like walking a lot, so I have to take my dog out for a walk. Okay, great, that's my purpose, right? So it's great. So within you kind of enmesh your love for cooking, your love for your family, your love for yourself, your love for your animals, and then it just becomes this very beautiful, loving, and creative moment where you are definitely making something that everyone's going to benefit from, right? Yeah. So that, I think, is a beautiful thing. It's like taking the time. I make a lot of choices to spend time with my animals, right? So I think that's part and parcel of it too. I've said no to a lot of social gatherings or going to people's cottages because my dogs weren't invited, or because I didn't feel it was the right time, or I didn't walk my dog long enough. So I may not say no, I might say, okay, I'll be there an hour later or 2 hours later because I have these responsibilities. And I think that's super important too, that people get to that place where they are putting their animals first, okay, before their social lives, because I've seen a lot of contrary stuff. Remember, they're feeling, you know, creatures who want to be loved and taken care of. So again, going back to the cooking thing, how much more love could you give? Do they know the difference? Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think, well, I wonder if they really know. Maybe I should just feed them like dry food for a couple of weeks and really show them what it's like to be living in the house of Ro, right? You know, it's funny, you know, I have some friends who would come over and have big pots. At the time I have the bigger dogs, right, or many dogs, and have big pots of rice and beef cooking together. And, you know, and the nice thing is, which we may not know, but you can add a lot of spices as long as it's not spicy, right, to the food. So you can add a bit of salt and pepper or za'atar or, you know, oregano or basil. They love that, right? They love feeling that they're eating home cooked meals. So I'm like adding, the people come over to the house, they're like, oh, you made dinner for us. I'm like, yeah, dig in, you know, again, sure, right? And they're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, do you want some yogurt with it? Oh yeah, sure. So, you know, you could feed the masses with one pot. I mean, and that's the point of the show.
Well, that is the point. And you make that point too, that this is all like, feed it to humans, feed it to animals. Either way, it doesn't matter.
That's it.
And it really is about like how much you enjoy what you're doing, because that's the grandma's chicken soup effect too, you know.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there cooking because you love it and because you love to eat it, it is very quantumly true that that energy has an effect on the actual substance of foodies. And that's why grandma's chicken soup tastes so much better than like Campbell's or whatever. I mean, not to
Yeah.
mention all the extra salt and stuff, but you know, it makes a difference. And it's so worth it to just acknowledge that, you know, just be a nerd for love and make a priority of your family that you're feeding, whether your family, that's what I hear you talking about, you know, instead of going to the cottage, there's the idea of responsibility, but to me it's like it softens when you just let it be your priority, you know, feeding my family is the priority, and then I'll be there to go have fun and whatever. But why is it my priority? Because this is how it feels to make it a priority. And
Yeah.
it's taking people back to, you know, the
Being
whole reason you
responsible.
wanted to be a veterinarian was to care for animals. Me
That's
too.
right.
Like, actually, I don't think I ever wanted to be a veterinarian. That was the acceptable
Yeah,
path.
at the time, that's all, we didn't, the dog market was, when I pioneered this whole situation of products and apparel, there was nothing there.
Right,
We were either a vet or, I could work at the racetrack with the horses. I mean, that was the option, right?
right. Both pretty, you know, their options focused differently than just caring for animals, you know. I mean, this is what I found for myself is going in the veterinary direction, it's medicine. And it doesn't necessarily give you, at least at the time I was moving in those circles, it didn't give me the space or the encouragement to actually connect. And I knew innately that connection as a foundation makes all healing easier, right? But if you're administering medicine, it's a different focus, it's a different mindset than being, nourishing through presence,
And
and
energy.
yeah, bringing that life force, bringing the energy into the conversation with an injured or a sick animal. And I just literally physically was unable to do the veterinary route. My springs would pop and I couldn't go there. I had to honor the connection part of it, which is what took me on my particular path. And in this conversation of human self-awareness, to receive the love that is unconditionally offered all the time. So
Yeah.
like, so when you were building your business, were you aware of the sense of connection with the animals as motivation, or were you just like gung-ho athlete driven, goal oriented, build a business?
Um, you know, if I wanted to make more money, I would have probably sold food, or a rubber ball or something that people could just pick up easily. My business is a very niche business. To this day,
Mm,
almost 30 years later,
yeah.
I still do customer service on the phones with my clients because even though I provide all of the tools to properly measure, people may miss a bead or step or something, and consciously I can't allow products and sizes to go out that are not correct.
Mm,
And being an expert in my field, I can tell when something's not correct, and I stop it before it goes out. I call the customer.
mm,
There's this, connection, and there's also the caring that comes through the humans, right? So let's focus on that too, because I am saving a dog's life by allowing them to walk again with
mm,
the shoes.
mm.
And then I'm also saving and providing this happiness and comfort to the human.
Right.
And so I really, really love that. I actually studied psychology in university as well for a bit. So I really like the fact that this company has given me and allowed me to give back everything that I require as far as what my interests are. Again, it's like, how do you build a business? You take what's fundamentally your pleasure, your desire, your interest. You could turn a hobby into a business, and then you find a way to, do the best that you can to make it happen. So to answer your question, business makes what feeds you and puts, the food on your plate. And then what your business is about, feed your soul,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And so I, 30 years later, I still would never give up on Neo-Paws because of the gratification that it gives me, that
mm,
I get tears in my eyes when I read people's comments and customers' emails saying, because of you, my dog lived an extra 5 years.
mm,
So I'm like, wow, how much more could I ask for to be of service on this planet, to
mm,
be able to give
mm,
to
mm,
people and the animals that's helping.
mhm,
Okay, so I think that's primary. So no, it wasn't about the business. It just, that was the side note
mhm,
that I was able to sell it. Like, it's funny because in my conversations with people, and I go through helping them figure out what shoe they need, what size, what product, da da da. And then I get to the place where I have to ask them for a credit card because I'm finalizing the order, and I hate it. I
mm.
really hate it. I'm almost like, oh, so would you like to use Visa or MasterCard or Amex? And then I'm like, and that I choke on those words because it's not about that.
Mhm.
I know I have to, because I have to pay my manufacturers for the product.
Of course.
We know, right?
Yeah.
But I don't like it. That's
Mm,
not why I'm doing this at all.
mm,
Trust me.
mm,
God gives me in other ways. The universe, hands me in other ways. The fact that I look in the mirror and say, and it's not even that I say it, but like, I'm just saying that I can look at myself in the mirror, or when I die, I can say I've done what I've wanted to do, what my purpose was.
mm.
And, and to me, every day waking up and doing my business is like being in a playground,
So awesome.
right? Like, so
Love it.
when I did TV and I had my cooking show for humans, I traveled around Latin America and I cooked with top chefs in these different cities. And it's funny, I was jet skiing, horseback riding, talking to people, eating, drinking. It was all amazing. And this was after I had just started Neo-Paws, but I missed Neo-Paws. It was like, it wasn't the same, right? Because I'm an uber active, kinetic individual. So yes, like my energy is like, oh, I mean, I tire people. I don't even tell people what I do in a day anymore because it's like, oh my God, what do you, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, just, yeah, I had a great day. That's it. Productive day, production. I'm a Virgo. Virgos are like, oh my God, what can we produce and fix and do and,
Right.
figure out. So it's part of my personality to, always be one step ahead anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it all works. I mean, it all ties itself in together and it works for the greater good.
I love it. I love the openness, right? And the fluidity and just constantly saying open to, all right, what else can happen? What else can we do? What else is here? What else can we speak to? What else can we address? And I think just that openness um, in humans, it lets us actually express our creativity. Everybody is creative. And
100%.
I just love, obviously love the animal kingdom, and that they show up everywhere, and it's just a matter of will you let them in and let your heart be nourished in whatever way. I mean, with the pets, loving our animals and loving our pets, and then letting that nourish our purpose and our creativity. Like, I just
Yeah.
can't encourage that enough. And it doesn't matter what it looks like or what you create. It's about how it feels that you say, yeah, okay, let's go. Because that's what dogs are always saying. Okay, let's go. What are we doing? And it's whether or not the person will say yes and actually take the action and engage. I think that's a huge thing that animals are for people, is invitation to engage with life.
I know, but Kerri, I agree with you 100%. And that's part of that symbiotic relationship we talk about in the exchange.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying on the other end is that if you're going to have an animal
Yeah.
that you're going to engage with, then step up to the plate and make sure that you're doing it the right way.
Mm.
Okay. Because they're not our servants typically. Like they are, if we're talking, oh, my baby, my fur baby, my this, well, you know what? Then just learn
Sure.
and figure out how to take it to the next level. So
Mm.
that, and I'm not saying walk your dog off leash, but what I'm saying is make sure you walk your dog. Make
Mm.
sure that you go out with your dog and entertain your dog. Make
Mm.
sure that it has enough of good food, exercise, mental stimulation, right?
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
can say, I'm a good pet owner,
Mm.
right? And it's funny because at the end of the day, I know this is my personality. I want to feel like I've done everything to my best ability.
Mm.
And that is an across the board thing. No matter what I choose to engage in, that I'm going to be able to say that I gave it my 100%
Mhm.
and I did the best that I can do. And
Mm.
it's okay if your best looks like this and my best looks like that, but let's get on that path of bestness,
Mm.
right? For everybody in your life and most of all yourself,
Mm.
right? That's the whole thing.
That's
So, yes, 100%.
yeah. All right, so we're coming down to the last few minutes. And so I just want to ask, is there anything else that you would love? I mean, we've covered a lot and you've shared so much. And is there anything else that you would love to share or say or ask before we wrap up for this little time together? Because I love your
I,
passion. I love hearing from you, but please, anything else that you would like to share or say or ask?
I mean, I think the last message of becoming healthy is most important, and I'm saying this in every way possible,
Mm.
right? So again, remember, this is not a dress rehearsal, right?
Mm.
This is the real deal,
Mm.
and I just think that it's so important to be able to um, motivate ourselves and challenge ourselves, right? So challenge yourself to go a little bit outside of the norm and the box, and by doing that, you might find out how to give yourself the confidence and
Mm.
the energy that takes to start opening yourself and living a very happy life inside and out. And trust me that no matter what you embark on, it is not necessarily going to be always an easy path. There will always be, right, obstacles in the way. I have dealt
Challenges.
with
Yeah.
many things. As great as you know, as I love my business and all this, and I love my dogs and I love my friends and I love my life, it's not always easy, but do not let that deter you. You
Mm.
know, and always remember that if you want a strong foundation, and my strong foundation was always through spiritual practice,
Mhm.
right? And God says, know thyself.
Mm.
So this is where we step it up and know thyself,
Mm.
heal yourself, be yourself. Don't
Mm.
live for other people, live for yourself, right?
And then share.
And
Yeah.
share the greatness of what you've discovered in yourself.
Oh,
Be
so I love
great.
that. I love it. I love it. I
Be
love it.
great. Yeah.
Oh, Ro, thank you so much. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you,
sharing
Kerri.
so much. You always
Yeah.
show up so beautifully. I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice. Well, I'm a child of God who, I get messages, and that's why we want to do what we do, Kerri, the same reason why you do what you do. And it's about healing and energizing, and, it's a crazy world right now, and we need people to just keep love alive, right?
Yeah.
Keep the faith and love alive and spreading.
Well, this is what it takes to create a new expression of humanity, right?
Yes,
That's really where my heart is. It's receiving how loved you are in every form, challenging yourself to not only receive it but engage and then share what your creativity is in the world. Take those chances, and it is challenging,
it
a
is.
100%, largely because for hundreds, if not thousands of years, humanity's tried to condition itself to you just stay home and be comfortable. Don't challenge anything.
Yeah,
We'll
believe
do it,
everything you're told, right?
right? But this is the time to challenge that and say, you know what, that might not be working for us. But to create a different expression of humanity, it requires humans to acknowledge the love that we are, to receive the love from the pets, from oneself, being
Yeah,
healthy. Doing spiritual practice is being loved, receiving that, you know what,
it's connecting.
creator, God, universe, all the different
Hmm.
words for what love is, I'll
Hmm.
have that. And
Yeah,
bring it to me in all the ways I can receive it, and then show me more. And
very much so.
for you and I know the animals have been a big part of the path. And that's why I'm in the conversation. Not just because it's been my journey, but because every single human on the planet has a relationship with animals, even if all they do is eat them. Animals nourish life. So let's acknowledge that and acknowledge the love that's here for humans so that we
Very
can
much so.
keep the love alive and
Yeah,
create humanity in a new way.
Very much so. And taking that light, I think now more than ever, we need to become the light workers that we're meant to be, because humanity needs it. Animal kind needs it. We all need it, right? So be the light, walk the path, show the way, and help each other get out of everything that we know to come into a beautiful new world and a new path that we can all live on, and follow.
And eat the peanut butter cookies.
And
That's
eat the
all I'm
peanut butter
saying.
cookies. Eat the peanut butter cookies.
Eat the peanut butter cookies.
Cookie monster.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you, Kerri.
We'll talk to you soon.
Big love. Bye, love.
I look at you with an open heart and see who you really are. No need to find the words for this faith and grace, but don't doubt it, trust the smile on my face. You come to me as a kindred soul who's never been alone. Through dark, uncertain days when you were asking why, I have been the light on the other side. There's a way to live this life, to stop doing and start being, and understand the meaning of the wonder all around. With your spirit in the air and your feet on the ground, the smallest step on the hardest road will lead you where you're meant to go. Surrender to this moment and let yourself be free. The truth is that your story started